to call the instruction committee to order. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If possible, please stand and join us. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is approval of the November 16th minutes.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Changes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is field trips. Anyone get a chance to look through? Any questions?
If I may, is the Fairleigh, Vermont, is that an overnight? Is the Pearlbird Outdoor Center Fairleigh, Vermont?
No, I don't know, it says overnight.
Is that Youth Climate Leader
Yeah.
Academy? Yeah, okay, it
December
says
1st,
overnight,
2nd.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And they're like self-paying for accommodations or whatever?
I don't have the details.
Okay.
right now. I can get back to you.
I just didn't know if that's a group or, I know it's Youth Climate Leader Academy.
That's Mr. Scopel's thing, I think.
Do you want me to speak to that?
Sure.
It's something up in Vermont where schools get together and talk about environmental issues. And I was a real proponent for them to participate in that. They fund it themselves through the Environmental Club.
I'm just curious about it. Yeah, thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is the scheduling at the high school, master scheduling.
Sure.
So I think there was some questions about the fact that they're getting a stipend and they're building it during the school day. Is that right? So the reason we do it that way is because it takes a huge team of people to build this, and so we're constantly bringing people in. So like for instance, we're building phys ed, we'll have to bring Sheila Colson in sometimes because we can't have 4 phys ed teachers in a class in a gym with 1 gym. So it's all about scheduling people and when we offer courses. But having said that, I don't let any other stipend positions happen during the school day. So I met with my team and we've come up with a schedule so that it will still get done within the teacher contract. But they'll still teach their full load during that week.
So it's just during a week, I think that was an important.
Well, so we used to build it in a week, right? We'd pull the 2 teachers out and then we had administrators and guidance counselors in a week and we build it. But we've looked at, it doesn't have to be done that way. That's the way it's been done for 25 years. So we looked at doing it a little differently using the teachers' prep times, so they'll still teach their 3 classes, but then they would do a teacher by the minute type thing like we did with the Dean of Students. So we're gonna try it that way this year.
So this is done, what, in the spring for the coming school year?
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole process starts in September, where we're looking at new courses, and then we meet with team leaders, and then we look at budget constraints, and then we present to Allison, and then we present to you, and then we update the program of studies, and then students sign up, and then once all that happens, then we start building it into Infinite Campus.
Go ahead.
I don't think anybody was saying that you had to change it. I think whoever it was looking just to see what the normal process was. But I think if it's for a week and they need to have their prep for their instruction, and so if it's for that week, I don't think the board was asking for you to change anything either. So just kind of keep that in mind.
No, I know, but I think it forced a good conversation with us.
Yeah.
To sort of look at what we're doing. Because I don't let the football coach have practice during D block, right? He gets a stipend to do it after school. So it forced a great conversation. And it's good to look at the way we do things. Maybe there's a better way to do it. So I had the team together and we looked at how we could do it. And we're gonna give it a shot. And we may have to go back to the old way next year, but we'll try it.
Perfect.
Just to ask a question, because my life of scheduling is different.
Okay.
I'm not used to peers, scheduling for peers.
Uh-huh.
So I'm used to using either a centralized workforce management scheduling team
Mhm.
or supervisory staff scheduling for their staff. So could you just really, education is, that's my weakness.
Yeah, so like,
Care that-
the master schedule, there's a lot of things that have to be put in, like there's rules you have to tell IC. So as it builds, it creates rules. So like the two teachers that are building this are not making decisions about when classes run, they're not making decisions on what runs, that's me, I do that. They're doing the nuts and bolts of building it. See, typically in a big school like this, you would have a director of guidance that would lead all of this work. We don't have one, so we piecemeal that job to different people. So this is like a stipend that normally a director of guidance would do. Does that make sense? So they're not making any major decisions about whose prep is when, that all is done with an administrator. They're like laying the bricks so that we're able to like have a schedule. Does that make sense? Because it's a big job.
Are they choosing though when staff have their prep block?
Team leaders do that. So like we'll build a schedule and we'll spit out like there are 16 classes needed for physical science. So the team leaders take that and they build their schedule based on who's certified to teach it. And then there's certain teachers that have medical conditions where they have to have a certain block off. So that's how that's built. Those two teachers building the schedule are not doing that. Yeah.
Any other questions, folks? Thank you for coming in and
Oh,
explaining
you're
that, I
welcome.
appreciate that.
It's a beast. It's a huge school. With a CTE center, it's a huge task to build that, so,
Great.
yeah.
Are you here also for the new course proposals
Yeah, I'll
as
just
well?
sit right here.
I think we have several people joining us for this.
So my teachers will come up for this, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Do you want to just do it by copy?
How many do we have? Because I mean, if there's room, we can have them.
How many chairs do you guys enroll?
We have 5.
4.
5 teachers, right?
5. Who's ready to catch? Here we go.
Oh, excuse me.
All right.
We have
I think we do incoming.
Oh, my.
We'll all get covered. Yeah, I think we're good.
another.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So we have new course proposals. They can introduce who they are so that everyone knows, and then they each have a slide prepared, and we'll answer questions if you have them. So you want to start with Ron?
Oh, well, it says social studies.
Yeah, but just introduce
Oh,
you.
oh,
Hi,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm Ron Goodwin, Director of Music and Performing Arts at Spalding and the team leader for music in the district.
I'm Stacy Horn. I am a social studies teacher.
Kevin McNair, also a social studies teacher.
Evelyn French, also social studies.
Jen Daly, art teacher at Spalding High School.
Okay, we'll start with social studies.
Got that covered, right?
Okay, so essentially this slide here is just covering that we actually surveyed our current students a little bit ago where, you know, we were trying to think about how could we revamp the department, get our numbers up, kids who are excited about social studies, what courses are our current students interested in. And so we came up with a list of courses, ones that we're currently running, some that we've run in the past, and some that we had some ideas for. And so this is just kind of a snapshot of those results. So we've started to kind of start building out our future as a department sort of based on some of these results. So that's kind of what you're looking at here. And that, so the three of us are going to present on our courses. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Question?
Data question, sorry.
Yeah.
When you're looking at the way you look at your courses, there's like, for example, early American history and then early American history enrichment. Do you combine those steps together?
So those are the courses that we already offer. So we already offer early American history, and we also offered like the enriched version of it. So we did not combine it.
That's just a different level.
Right, yeah.
It is
yeah.
just a different level. Yep. So I am spearheading the history of pirates, which was the breakout in the interest amongst the students. It was one of the larger bars that you saw there. I don't know if you saw this, but we based it some new sort of competencies that we worked with Kathy that we might want to move social studies into in the future. And I have like what I would cover for history of pirates based off of those competencies. I don't know if anybody is interested. I made copies. You're welcome to have them. So essentially, I would start with the golden age of piracy, going back a little bit into early Greek piracy, and moving forward all the way into modern Somalian pirates, looking at the socioeconomic structures that cause piracy in the world. Sure.
Yeah, so the class that I was looking at proposing is the history on the Salem witch trials. Obviously, living in New England, living in this area, there's such as myth and pop culture surrounding the witch trials, and so the goal of the class would be to kind of strip away some of that fantasy and strip away some of that kind of mythology around it, and really look at the nitty-gritty of what it was. This was a pretty intense time in the summer of 1692, in which ultimately led to 19 pretty much individuals, innocent individuals, being executed for the crime of witchcraft. So ultimately, the goal of the class would be to kind of look at primary sources, at exactly who were being charged, why they were being charged, and obviously the perpetrators that were kind of responsible for everything. And that would also tie into some of the more historical relevance with the Red Scare of the 1920s, McCarthyism in the 1950s, and how mob mentality can kind of change what is a normal, typical New England village and kind of turn it into this kind of a dark scene. And I also, as well, have some printouts, which is different topics and things like that would tie into each of the competencies.
Can I ask a quick question for both of you?
Sure.
I noticed one is geared towards 10 through 12, one is geared towards 9 through 12. Is there a reason 9th grade is left out of one of them?
So
Just
from
development
my
goals?
perspective, in 8th grade, they learn about colonial America. So they would be coming in with the knowledge regarding, colonial America and the golden age of piracy sort of happened conjointly. And
And one of the reasons why I did 10 to 12 is mainly by 10th grade in English, they are reading The Crucible. And obviously The Crucible is a fictitious kind of take on the event through a play, but it's kind of links to that. So hopefully, and obviously it handles some little bit more darker themes, because it does handle, obviously, executions and things like that. So it's kind of, in theory, gauged for the more mature students.
Well, and it's aligned to the English curriculum, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that was the
that's the
major
ultimate
reason.
goal,
Yeah.
of course.
Okay. Do you want to present first and then continue? Or can we ask questions as we go?
You can ask questions. Yeah. Is that what you want?
No, it doesn't matter.
whatever works.
Okay.
All right, advanced placement psychology, this would be open to grades 11 through 12. We do already currently run psychology at the standard and enriched level, but we're actually having quite a few students currently taking advanced placement psychology on VLAX. And anecdotally, I've had a lot of students showing interest in studying psychology and the psychology-related subjects at the college level as well. So I thought this would be a really great course to bring to our students to give them that college level academia essentially in psychology. So the competencies are the same as our current psychology competencies, so those really wouldn't be changing. The course, of course, would be aligned to the College Board's advanced placement timeline, guidelines, all that. The students would be expected to take the advanced placement course in May. And there is a cost associated with this because for advanced placement courses, you really do need the textbook that aligns to the curriculum to prepare students for that test. I did get a quote. It would be about $4,698, including 20 student books, a teacher's edition, and a 6-year online access use, and this cost also includes shipping. So that is really primarily the major cost that would be associated with this course.
So you said we currently have students that are doing it through VLAX.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that, if they take it through VLAX, does that correspond to credits?
Yeah, they
at
transfer the
high
credits in.
school? They transfer it over,
Right.
and they're able to test?
Yep, they can still take the
They can
AP
still
test.
pass, everything's the same with VLAX as far as?
Yeah, they're just doing it online.
Okay.
But yeah, so because we've had kids saying, I want to take this class, and they're having to take it on VLAX, a lot of them are students who would take it in person at our school if we offered
We
it.
offered it.
But they're, I mean, this is like the only class they would be taking, they're already in the school,
Yeah.
taking other courses and whatnot, they're at home.
Like when we didn't have enough
VLAX.
students to run Latin, if kids still want Latin, they take it through VLAX.
Right.
I just like the idea that we're teaching our upper level students and we're not sending them to VLAX, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
Yeah.
this to me is well worth the money, that we have a really competent teacher who wants to teach it and get trained to do it. It doesn't really cost that much money, and we're not sending our upper level students to VLAX. So it's a win-win, I think.
Yeah, I think if we have students who are looking for these challenges, and I think it's really important that we offer them within the social studies department, so.
Yeah.
For the cost of the textbooks, is that something that could be purchased this year if we had surplus funds versus waiting till the beginning of next year?
So one thing I will speak to it on that is this is the latest edition that isn't coming out until, I think, April at least.
But the answer is yes.
Then in theory, we
Just want to give you the timeline in case that made a difference.
The timeline helped, then yes.
So, I mean, in April, I have the team leaders give me big budget items in November.
Yeah.
And as I'm gearing toward the end and I have funds, I start looking at what we can do now. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really support the in-person opportunity for sure.
Awesome,
This
thank
would be
you.
great.
If I may, do you also have a background in counseling or anything to offer Running Start at the same time? Or-
I do not, I wouldn't be able to offer Running Start per my degree, it wouldn't align with that, so yeah, I would have to do the AP.
I know it was a.
I know. Unfortunately, my certification and degree don't align with the Running Start option, yeah.
Hello, I'm here to talk about advanced painting, which is a Great Bay Early College, formerly known as Running Start course. So I don't know if you guys have had an opportunity to look at the slide, but this course is going to provide our higher achieving students an opportunity to gain college credit while still at Spalding High School. And a lot of the things on the slide just kind of talk about the basics, what the course is about, what the kids are going to experience. Currently, I am teaching advanced drawing at Spalding High School. I brought some examples if anybody wants to see of what our kids are doing and the rigor that they're kind of going through to create stuff right now. So these are juniors, like I have juniors and seniors in the class, but I just pulled the juniors work because I thought it would be helpful for you to see, these are the kids I want in this painting class. These are the kids that I was like, ooh, we need to have this. Because these guys are very talented. And it was when we did this project that I realized Great Bay had asked me twice if we'd ever consider painting. And I'm like, oh, we have to look and see if it would work within our schedule. And then we did this pen and ink drawing with ink washes, and these kids knocked it out of the park. And because of that, I was like, I'm gonna try to see if it works with our department to try to bring it to Spalding High School. Because these kids did an amazing job, but not only did these kids do an amazing job in the course itself, I have some very talented students who are just in Art 1, who, with the opportunity to take, even if it's just Art 1, and then, petition to be in the class, and maybe they get in as a junior, or maybe they don't get in until senior year, they could take other art classes along the way. But I've got amazing students who took Art 1, who would actually also do really well in the course. And these are just a couple of things from a student who I had as a freshman last year. So they're already learning the basics in Art 1 that would make them successful students as potential juniors and seniors in this course. The things that we just lose in the process of being the art department is there's a stigma around taking art classes. It seems to prevent our highest level learners from taking art beyond what's required for minimum graduation. I think because they just get very focused on other things and they forget that art can be important, and they can take this class now and they can have time when they study science to take more science electives in college because they've gotten their requirement, their minimum art requirement while at Spalding High School. So yeah, and we've got a lot of gifted and talented students, and this allows them another elective to actually dive thoroughly into the world of painting.
And this would be running start?
Yeah, it's called early college now. That's what I'm supposed to call it, but yes.
No, but it would be another opportunity.
Yes.
It's another pathway. You know, we're looking at pathways in our art students. Like, the talent, that's just a fraction of what our kids are doing at Spalding. It's unbelievable. So this is just another opportunity for them to not only get a college credit, but to just provide another opportunity at Spalding for our art kids. So it's, and luckily we have a really good teacher that can teach it, so.
I think it's interesting that we have a college graduate from 2018 that really did art, and now he's doing prosthetics, and he's doing the art part on the prosthetics. So you don't realize what art can do for your degree, and it's, you know what I mean, he came home and he showed me all of these things, and I was like, wow, if I ever lose a limb, I'm gonna call you. But it's interesting because you need art. Like, he has to draw all those things on this drawing pad, and it's just, the degrees and the things that you can do with that degree is amazing, so.
It was awesome, even just to see him as a junior and senior.
Oh, you know.
Carving that path. I know exactly who you're talking about because he was my AP student. And yeah, he showed me this video of this ballerina with a prosthetic, and he's like, this is what I want to do. And I'm like, it's perfect, you've taken all the courses for it. So yeah, it was really cool to watch our
And he's
kids.
doing it, so
Yeah.
it's amazing to know. So yeah, I didn't know you knew him, so.
Yes.
To let him know.
I just want to say, it's another way to keep kids interested in school. A lot of times the kids that don't get involved in clubs and sports and things, art actually reaches out to them. I have a granddaughter that's really surprising me. She hated school in middle school, and she loves school at high school, and she loves art. She's doing ceramics, and she's so excited about it, and it's made her a better student in other classes. So it's a way to. It might not be an artist when you get out of school, or that might not be your life work, but it will influence what you do when you decide.
I'll add that, just the talent, and not only in the art department, but also even the music and drama and whatnot. I mean, you may not see it in other departments like math or science or whatever, but certainly, you know, kids thrive wherever. It's important to offer those.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if you were able to see the village, if you went to the new village that we did, but it incorporated art. So we had all sorts of students' artwork displayed from kindergarten, right, all the way up through 12th grade. It was really neat, because you just walk through the tech, and then you walk through the hallways, and you had all this artwork from the whole district displayed. It was really awesome.
So, lighting for stage and screen. This is a new offering that we'd like to put forth through the music department, which is really the music and performing arts department. We've long had a theater class that focuses more on acting and to a lesser extent directing. Last year we added a stagecraft class that was very successful, and the numbers for that have increased substantially this year, to the point where next year we're looking at probably offering 2 sections of it. So that spurred us to think about, okay, for those students who are interested more in the tech side of things and how they could find a niche, we thought, let's offer a lighting class. And having worked with lighting for quite some time now, both on the musicals and in the world of television before that, I thought this would be a great fit. And offering it for both stage lighting, and if we offer it during Q3, which aligns with our musical production, we could actually give them some hands-on experience actually helping to design the lighting plot, hang the lighting plot, troubleshoot the lighting equipment, and really give them a chance to get their hands kind of dirty, so to speak, with that. But then also we have a bunch of television lighting gear that we could use as well to teach them about how to light for the video camera, which could be a really useful skill just in their work experience or day-to-day life if they want to do something more with video production. So that's where this is kind of coming from, and the competencies are not entirely dissimilar from others that we have. The analysis competency comes basically from the stagecraft class, in that we would look at different scenes and lighting plots, analyze what was done, figure out what works, what doesn't work, and then take that and synthesize it into our own creations going forward. Creative expression and technique really gets to the meat and potatoes of it. You know, how can you creatively express through lighting, and then what are the actual technical components behind executing that. And then the lifelong learning competency is one that we use in a lot of our classes because we always are trying to find connections between what they're experiencing in the classroom and how you can apply that out into the real world in all sorts of situations, not just necessarily in their work life. But, I don't think the cost would be beyond the initial outlay of, you know, to get a set of textbooks, which would be really nice, kind of a luxury because a lot of our classes we make do without them. But if we were able to purchase a set of textbooks, that would make launching a class more easily. We're estimating about $3,000 for that. If we can't do that, we can certainly figure something out, another way of presenting the information. Other than that, it's just a very small annual outlay for expendables, like lamps for the lights and gels for the lights and things like that. A lot of the other stuff we already own because we use it for our musicals, we use it for the video production class and such. So that's what and this would meet a fine arts requirement, as do all the courses that we offer through the music department.
So on ours, it says 300, but you just said 3,000.
So, yeah, we caught that. That was a typo. It was supposed to say 3,000,
Okay.
and I caught it beforehand, and I asked if Allison could update that for me before I presented it here. So that's that explanation.
And can we just get a kind of a break, like you said, you think it's gonna cost, like, have you looked into?
So I've looked at the average costs of various lighting textbooks. I haven't identified one specifically because I'd really like to get one that addresses both the stage and the screen aspect, where often they kind of look at them separately. But there are a couple out there that do it more universally. I just haven't had the opportunity to really look and say, yep, that's the one. And I want to look for something that's going to be, you know, as inexpensive as possible and concise as possible, because we're looking at this as a quarter-long class, so I don't need a textbook that's like this to draw from. We won't have the time to go through that, so I want to find something that's pretty concise, and hopefully we can come in under that $3,000 mark. So that was just kind of a guesstimate.
Yeah, just follow, I guess I would just so I understand what you're saying, and you
Yep.
want to be cost efficient, but I also want to make sure that it's a book worth the value, you know what I mean?
Yes,
So,
absolutely,
I mean, just
absolutely.
be cautious, because we do want to save money, but we also want to make sure it's something that's going to be.
Yeah, I would absolutely make sure it's something that we're gonna use, for sure. And something that has good quality, up-to-date information in
Yeah.
it, so.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead, sir.
This may be a little unrelated. I'm just curious, are we using our TV studio in the tech center? Is there a class that's run to teach them how to use the equipment in the?
So currently, the video production class that we offer, there's some challenges about that. It might be a bigger discussion that needs to be had about that, but there's some challenges in terms of scheduling that space, other classes that utilize that space. The video production class that I've typically taught is a single camera video production class, whereas a studio production would utilize multiple cameras. You'd have a full crew, you'd have someone sitting at the switcher, switching between the cameras. So it's not being utilized for that purpose. I understand the photography class uses the studio space right now. At one point, I believe the city was planning on doing some work in there. I'm not sure what's happening with that right now. And we've looked at, you know, potentially going forward, what could we do? How could we get something going in that space? But we just haven't arrived at a conclusion yet on that, so.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
We definitely are. It's a space that's not utilized the way we'd like it to be. A lot of it is who's gonna do it, who's gonna get the training, who has the space in their schedule. Because I can't just say, okay, you go do it, because it has to be a teaching requirement. So I've talked with Matt Wyatt from the city on how he could support getting people trained. So we're working on it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
we've
you.
had Celeste come in and work with students.
Yeah.
We've changed the schedule this year so that A block is open for a class, because we had D block open before and that didn't work because we have music. So this year we changed it up so that A block, it's available. And we have had Celeste come in and work with students. We've done some announcements. We've done some city channel sessions on mental wellness. So It is being utilized, but not to its potential right now.
My dream is to actually have a broadcasting class that they're doing news
The news, the daily
and we have
news.
teachers that are interested, we just have to get the competencies written, so we're working on it.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you for the update. I just hadn't heard about it for a while, so
yeah,
thank you.
absolutely.
Any other questions? Okay.
I hope you're seeing we're trying to add high-interest electives. One, to keep kids out of study hall, but also to keep them engaged. So this group here has done a phenomenal job, like listening to what students want, and then creating really high-interest classes, so I just want to applaud them for that.
Thank you.
Just piggyback off that, because last time, I remember the first time someone brought in a new course to me, I'm like, well, where's the demand, right? It's a new product, where's the demand? Thank you for the stats and, or explanation of your students, it's been very helpful to understand this. At least in my mind.
Definitely applaud all of you for coming in on a Thursday night for the occasion too, so. Do we keep going?
We've got middle school next year. Is that-
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Merry Christmas.
Love your sweater, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I'm not coordinating errands.
I-
It was ugly sweater day,
Enjoy your time at home with your family.
Thank you.
Not at school.
Hello. Ron's gonna start again with
I'm going to
music.
start, so I'm going to handle, there's two middle school classes that are being proposed through the Unified Arts Music department there. The first one is 6th grade beginning band. So we currently have beginning band. Most students start in the 4th grade, some come in the 5th grade. During COVID, there were a couple of years at the middle school where the students weren't playing or singing for obvious reasons, which put us at a disadvantage. We had numbers drop in the program as a result of that. And that bubble is sort of working its way up through to the high school. We're hopefully going to be at our lowest point next year, and then it will start to build back up again. But we are looking at ways to capture students that didn't get the chance to get in that might want to be part of that performance experience. So we thought, why not offer a 6th grade beginning band that would get some of those students on board. And one of our teachers at the middle school has extensive, not only choral experience, but also instrumental experience. So she would be able to take the reins on this. The idea is that it would be offered for first and second trimesters, and then the third trimester, they would be mainstreamed into the regular band, 6th grade band at that point, so that they would be prepared. It'd be kind of a crash course for them, but it would be a real good on-ramp to hopefully get them in and in time so that they can make their way up through to the high school and enjoy a pretty normal high school band experience like anyone who had started a year or two prior to that. So most of the way this would operate would be pretty much the same blueprint that we would use for our beginning and advanced bands. So students would indicate interest to their general music teachers in the June of this year, basically. They would have to sign a contract basically saying that they're on board for a year. They would end up going through some lessons essentially within this trimester, and they would be in like groups, and then they would have some ensemble work. It would kind of progressively grow out until they were at the point of being their own band and get them ready to the point where they would join in with the existing band at that point. We do have scholarship instruments that we offer for students that can't afford to rent. Most students rent through Music and Arts, which is a vendor we work with, but we do have scholarship instruments so that we are able to have students that, if they're not financially able to make that commitment, we don't want to exclude them. We want to have them involved. So we get donations of instruments and we have them repaired and then sign them out to them, and they follow them through their career in the district at that point. So that's essentially what we're looking at. The costs should be pretty minimal because most of everything we need for this already exists. We're just looking at, maybe about $500 a year to help keep the repertoire fresh and make sure that we're using the best, most recent method books for them to be working and learning from. The competencies are very much the same that we would use at even the high school with literacy, reading music, technique, how are you actually manipulating the instrument, and then again, that lifelong learning component.
Any questions on this? Go ahead, Karen.
So, again, I'm just gonna
Yep.
ask the money part,
Yep.
so the 500, is that include the cost of maintaining or fixing or?
So
an instrument?
we have you guys were very generous to us last year in giving us an increase in our line items that would include some maintenance of instruments that we never had before, and I'm hopeful that we can continue that on. And I'm sure I'll probably be coming back to talk more about that a little bit later on in the process. As long as we can continue that, the middle school gets as a whole a line item for instrument repairs and for music. The high school gets the same, the elementary gets the same. So I think we could just treat it under that umbrella, and it would be fine. They would probably end up, to some degree, larger instruments would be shared instruments among students, and that's typical. Like if we have a tuba player, they may have to share their instrument with another tuba player at the school. It's too expensive for them to rent. Typically, companies don't rent large instruments like that anyway.
Okay.
So there is expenses in terms of the district needing to purchase instruments and upkeep instruments, but a lot of that mechanism is in place currently because of the other ensembles that already exist, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
When you submit your budget request this year, it
Yep.
would be good to keep that detail in there.
Yes.
Because I think we need to, otherwise, you're gonna need firm numbers in each one of these courses versus, about, or we need a little more. So if you're gonna justify your overall expenses, you can have that.
Okay,
So
sure.
when we look at ours and say, what's the justification of this big lump sum, she has that in mind.
Absolutely, absolutely. And obviously, we won't necessarily know the numbers for this new course, but we should know numbers for our other courses, and we can take a guess this first year, and then hopefully we'll know it's gonna average about this number of students going forward, so. And then this is another course being offered there by the same teacher, exploring musical instruments. And a lot of this, the impetus behind this is there were a bunch of theater classes, and there will still continue to be a theater class offered as one of the unified arts options. But her strengths are really in music performance. So she really wanted to work to play towards her strengths. And I think the doing aspect is really helpful in these classes. The kids like to have their hands on some things. So this particular class is good. It will be somewhat a music appreciation class, but it will have that hands-on component. We have a set of ukuleles that we're hoping to bring into play in the classroom, so the kids can learn how to play ukulele as one unit within the course. They'll learn about basically the history of musical instruments and how they developed and where they developed and some of the cultural aspects behind that. And it's just another way to give them a way into accessing music in the curriculum, essentially, with a performance component, which I think is important. Because, like I said, they would much rather be doing something than just sitting there having information thrown at them the whole time. Which, unfortunately, in most music appreciation classes, that's what it ends up being. So we're hoping that this will capture the imaginations of students a lot more. And again, the outlay on this should be pretty modest because we have those ukuleles, we have other instruments that we already use within the district that we could repurpose or share. The elementary schools have a number of instruments that they use, recorders and things like that. So depending on which directions she wanted to go within the class, I feel confident that we could do this, not on the cheap, so to speak, but we could do this without a huge initial outlay and then get kind of a lay of the land after that and figure out where we might go from there. And again, the competency is very similar here. Literacy component, an appreciation component here, and then the lifelong learning component.
Questions, folks? Great, thank you. So far?
Yep.
Robotics. So we're looking to just expand off opportunities and pathways to kids. We currently have a computers teacher that we have not been able to replace over the last couple of years. So we're trying to get creative and see where the interest is. We started with grant funding and after-school program this year, a STEAM program, and we have 10 kids weekly meeting, and they're doing robotics, coding, they're working 3D printing. So they're working on that weekly, so there is an interest with those kids. We're looking at science, engineering, and technology focus, and just really getting those experiences so that when they get to the high school, they can continue on that pathway. I've been K-12 as an administrator, and I've seen in the beginning stages with First Lego League, with 5th and 6th graders, and seeing robotics from the high school program come down and mentor those kids in a different district. I've also been in a high school for 12 years, and our robotics team at Prospect Mountain High School went to the World Championships multiple years. And I was able in the after-school program just to see them working, math, science, technology, woodworking, metals, working separately and then coming together to collaborate and problem solve on a challenge. And for cost, we put $5,000. We've used grant funding this year for STEM, and it's costly, some of the software, some of the programming. We're also looking to see if we can use any grant funding for the experiences. Also talking to the high school if there's anything we can use that they've used in the past. I recently went to Kearsarge Middle School and met up with a number of other middle school principals, and we're able to see a STEM presentation where they're using a lot of grant funding for drones and coding, a program called Makey Makey, which is with coding. And so we're really trying to get those experiences for kids to get on those paths, get interests, and again, move into that pathway at the high school. And when I was at the high school, a lot of kids went into engineering from that robotics experience. And just again, another opportunity for another unified arts course for kids to take that we can't fill right now, being creative with it. We've done a similar thing with business. Right now we're continuing to grow and progress, and we're expanding our older students, 8th grade students are starting to create a school store and hopefully doing more work with the CTE Center and the work they do in their school store. So that's what we're working on for robotics.
Any questions, folks? Okay. Thank you
Thanks.
for the presentations. With the teachers that have left. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve these?
I'll second.
No discussion?
Just a reminder that obviously we need to have the numbers firmed up for budget season.
Ollie, I agree with that. I think when you're looking like at around a budget, I think it would be beneficial to know, because if it's more money, it's something that we're really gonna have to look at. And I think it's something that, for next time, if we're gonna talk about classes, I'd like to see like what the 5-year, like how much is it gonna cost initially, and then what's it gonna be for the next few years? Because a lot of these were initially 5,000 or initially, you know what I mean? I think we need to look at if it's something that's gonna be worthwhile, what's it gonna cost for at least the initial first 5 years. I only say 5 years because we have 5 years.
Well, that would be obviously the work of this committee, but for budgetary purposes, if you're
You know
gonna
what I mean? I
forecast
think that
out
would
a
be
budget
good
next
too,
5
yeah.
years, makes sense.
Because we don't wanna have a program that we have and then not be able to
Fund it next
fund
year.
it next year.
Any other comments? All right, call question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
You're up.
Could get to it. Criminal justice. Mr. Keough,
Sir.
how are you?
I'm great.
Excellent.
So we are here tonight. You do have a little backup. As you know, part of the CTE and programs is to have advisory boards. We have to have an advisory board meeting twice a year. It's mandatory that we do that. On the advisory board are people from the community who work in the field. And so we have, and Mr. Keough will go through who's on the advisory board. A lot of our advisory board members not only give us recommendations of what we need to be doing so that students are prepared to go into the different fields, this being criminal justice, but they also give us donations. And so we have an opportunity from the Rochester Police Department, who has given us a few wonderful donations. This is a great opportunity for students. So I'm going to have Jay, just if you can review who's on your advisory and what we are proposing this evening.
Thank you. I'm Jay Keough, criminal justice teacher at Spalding. Like Ms. Halligan fully said, we have a PAC, our Program Advisory Committee. And on that committee, I have Officer Jackson, who is our school resource officer. I have Lieutenant Ann Gould, who is the Lieutenant at BD, and also a juvenile prosecutor. I have Nicole Robler, the diversion coordinator. I have Lieutenant from the Stratford County jail, excuse me. And I have Carrie Devine, the dispatch supervisor. And these folks, we meet together twice a year. They talk to me about issues that they have within their careers with new officers, new correctional officers, juveniles, what have you. And one of the things that they've talked about was interpersonal communications. Kids, folks coming into the police departments nowadays don't know how to interview folks. They don't know how to interview suspects, witnesses, what have you. And that's been an ongoing thing. And Officer Jackson and myself have incorporated some lessons to where we have teachers in the Spalding side of the building that will have a list of things that these students should be asking them, right? And then we give lessons with the students, and then the students have to go out and ask these teachers questions as if they were witnesses of a crime, which is awesome. It's fun. We do that Q4. But this year, Chief Boudreau donated his driving simulator, which we're still working on trying to get to work. So it's a really big paperweight right now. And also gave his the weapons training simulator. And this simulator is phenomenal. There's a plethora of training simulations they can do with a drunken disorderly, a domestic, a shoplifting, a mentally, a person with a mental illness, dealing with them, a simple trespass, hundreds of scenarios. And one of the big things that you can use with this simulator is their questioning of these folks, right? So the students are gonna question these suspects, these individuals that they're dealing with out in public. And if they're not questioning them correctly, I can manipulate the scenario to where that person escalates, right? And it turns into a use of force scenario, right? Or if they're doing proper interviewing techniques or questioning, right? It de-escalates and it's not a use of force scenario. And I really think that this is gonna be an awesome program for the kids to, once they graduate here and hopefully go on to law enforcement or in law or corrections, they have a better understanding of different scenarios that they might run into, which will give them a leg, an advantage over other kids that didn't take this program.
I also wanted to mention that Jay leads our cluster for the state. So all the criminal justice programs, they meet once a month?
Every other month, yes ma'am.
Every other month, and they talk about what pieces of equipment they have to work with students, to prepare students for the future. And there are a number of programs now that have these simulators in their class. So just wanted to let you know that this is not the only program who would have a simulator like this.
How big is this?
It is it's a projector that you would have on the ceiling that projects to a screen. I want to say the screen is 10 feet wide, 8 feet tall, and that's really the footprint. With the projector is the sensors that detect the laser coming from the different tools that the students might use, whether it be a pistol, a taser, flashlight. And there's a bunch of tools that they could use.
So it's much smaller than the flatbed truck that you had all the
Yes, sir.
previous days. Okay, great.
So I read the thing, so I just have a couple questions, because I just want to make sure I understand it.
Yes, ma'am.
So when I got to the safety measures, it sounds like this firearm simulator is, I know it said that you're not gonna use, you're using non-lethal training cartridges. So if somebody were to bring in legal ammunition, would it fit into the simulator?
Yes and no, right? The pistol is it's a Glock pistol, but the barrel is outfitted with a laser, right? So there's a laser inside the barrel, so you would have to do some manipulation to be able to make this work, right? You would need to have proper magazines to fit in, because the magazines that we have are not going to fit rounds in it, if that makes sense.
It doesn't, so.
Okay.
So I know that you're not gonna have those magazines or whatever you call them, but like because again, we always have to look at the safety of our schools, right? And I'm not saying I don't support it, I just wanna make sure, because I think you're gonna have a lot of people ask. So if, Joe, because I don't wanna use any name, walks in with that magazine per se that you're saying, how long would it take him to be able to manipulate the firearm simulator that you have to fit the magazine in to then cause harm?
Okay. They would have to get through my locked classroom door, then my locked office door, and then get into a safe that we're gonna have bolted to the floor with those those tools in there. So they would not be able to get to that
Which is good.
very easily at all.
My next question, so that's good.
If it happened to be a student of mine, that was Joe, it would take him probably 5 minutes.
Okay, but
and-
you said there's a 3 lock, so
Yes, ma'am.
your classroom's locked,
My office is locked and then it's in
so
a
you have an
safe.
office within your classroom?
Yes, ma'am.
And then there's gonna be a safe within that?
That will be purchased and bolted into the floor.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
I think that answers, I might have a couple more, but I mean, I just think when you see that, it just, you know what I mean? You just wanna
Absolutely.
make sure you're as cautious as possible, and I know you would be, but
Yes, ma'am.
I think people are gonna ask, and we just need to have those answers. Sandy had her.
Yeah, go ahead, Sandy.
Thank you. I'm just curious then, if it wouldn't be helpful or valuable to have a, excuse me, a member of the defense bar on your committee?
We have reached out, and we are currently looking for somebody, a defense attorney to be on there. We had an awesome opportunity 2 years ago where we had a student do an internship with Schoen defense attorney in Somersworth. She was very busy, but we are looking to get a defense attorney on our PAC. Yes, ma'am.
Because what I read in the paper every day is the most expensive insurance payouts for suing police departments across the country. I mean, it's right across the whole country. So there might be something there that's missing that would be valuable information for your students.
Absolutely, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't know if it's a question, but more, again, I think we also need to, if we're doing this, we need to have some specific guidelines for if somebody were to even try to, you know what I mean? Or, I'm assuming daily you're gonna make sure that everything's in the safe, but like, what if a student were to try something, or try to take something, or try to take a piece? Like, I think we need to have that part in there to say, you're out of the program, or you're out of the class, or, do you know what I mean? I think we just need to be extra stringent if we're gonna have something like this, because I think it is needed, and I think it's valuable, and I think the way you wrote it out is really nice, but I just, that extra layer of protection for me would be really huge, because bringing that in there and just knowing it's there and knowing that, you know what I mean? Like, if you do any of this list, you know what I mean? Like, if you leave the classroom or you try, even if it's something that, you know what I mean? Like, you're out of that class. I think we need to be really, really firm, because I think when you're talking about, even if it's a simulator, you're talking about firearms, I think we have to be like very, very firm in our policies and our things like that. So I don't know if you've considered that, but.
That's, I wrote it down, it's a great point. I will, we have on my syllabus for all 4 of the courses, I have a disclaimer in there saying that, we're gonna be talking about, real world stuff. We're gonna talk about homicides, suicides, drug overdoses, you're gonna see pictures, you're gonna hear language.
Yep.
All that's gonna be in a disclaimer in there. I would definitely add something to that effect, to where, kinda like the plagiarism thing, if you try to access, this room, you're done.
Yeah, because I think that's
Yeah.
something that we need to make sure we're enforcing.
We do have safety forms that all students in the tech fill out because we have no tolerance for someone being unsafe because they could lose, fingers,
Yeah.
eyes in some of the programs. So all of those students fill out those safety forms, and if we have an issue, many times, the parents are called in and I have a conversation with them because it's a huge liability.
Yeah. I mean, even having them sign something ahead of time and saying, if your child does this, the parent's signing off saying, even if they're 3/4 into the class, you're included. Because I think we all joke, right? Freshmen are in the high school and sometimes their brains are not developed and they like to joke.
Yeah.
That's why I don't have a taser. Kidding. But you know what I mean? I think it's just something that we need to make sure we're very, very cautious in schools from. Thank you.
Good, Ken.
So the projector simulator, I think, is a great tool. That simulator is very similar to the one they use in the academy. And I think the people on that committee hit it on the head. Officers that come into the job are trying to get them to engage is very difficult, and especially these ones that are very young. So that gives you an idea of what you're gonna walk into when you hit the street. It's not the real thing, but it gives you an idea of what you're walking into. And then if they do pursue it, they'll be even more familiar when they hit the academy, because the academy is very similar. So, driving simulator, good luck.
Get a little nauseous on that. Yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you. How loud is the pistol simulator?
Last time we used it was over at the PD, and it was in an enclosed area. It can be as loud as you want it to be, and it can be as quiet as you want it to be. It's a big old surround sound system that you'd have hooked up to your computer with a volume knob.
Will they have ear protection or?
I would not have it to that volume, mainly because of the proximity of my classroom to the personalized learning area. And I would want to keep it to where it's enclosed just for our classroom to hear it. We don't want to startle anybody walking by. So we're going to keep it relatively quiet. And we're also going to notify any staff, teachers, kids that might be doing some move on when ready classes in the PL area. Hey, we're doing this, so that we don't startle anybody.
Or maybe could you also have like a sign outside of your
Absolutely.
door?
Yes, ma'am.
We had talked about that.
Yes, ma'am.
To alert others that if you hear gunshots in here, or what you think are gunshots or whatnot, maybe a sign, it's when it's in use or.
Yes, sir. But we want to keep that to a minimal amount. We don't want like the whole school.
Right,
Because
no,
if
and I
they hear
understand.
something,
Right.
we want them to respond.
We're not
Yeah.
trying to create public alarm.
Yes, sir.
And generate, a lockdown at the school because of the simulator.
Absolutely.
But on the same note, no information is gonna cause as much public alarm as a little information.
Yes, sir. Yes, Ms. Halligan-Foley and I have spoken about putting a sign out there, even maybe a little light to draw attention to the sign, so that people walking by take notice. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to accept that?
No motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you all very much. Merry Christmas.
Love the time, by the way.
Thanks, ma'am.
Next up, the calendars for the 2024-2025 school year. Sitting in the backup. I personally haven't had a chance to look at the calendar or study it. Any questions?
We don't want them to come in for one day on Christmas week?
No, we don't.
Am I the jerk?
No.
No.
I think the general consensus was no.
Any other thoughts, comments? I assume, is this like first reading, and we look at it again next month, or are we looking to push this to the full board already?
Planning in the past, we just usually push it to the full board, and then there's always 8 or 7 more revisions
Yeah.
between now and June. Hopefully less, so that way staff don't have to keep on updating things. But, yeah.
Is there a need to pass it right away, or is there like a deadline that we're aware of?
I don't think there's a need. I know we've spoken with the other area districts just around the CTE, making sure that we're in a good place for that, and so I think it's good to go whenever the board's ready to look at it.
Make a motion to accept the 2024-2025 school year calendar as presented.
Second.
Any discussion, any changes, alterations, suggestions?
Sure there will be.
Is it the CTE that's driving the April vacation to be the last week into May versus the last full week of April? Is it the Somersworth, Dover, Rochester?
I don't know if it's the CTE or if it was a general conversation about, that's when all the other districts had looked at having April vacation.
That's usually what it is, though. I mean, sometimes there's a day or two in May, and sometimes there isn't because the community calendar works, but
I always thought it was the third week. I always thought it was like the week before. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care.
It's only been like a couple of years where it's dipped into May. It's before that, it was always
Magic
the
Maine,
full week.
Massachusetts, usually we're separate or something like that, right?
Yeah.
there's also a suggested week that the State Department of Ed puts out, and that's probably the week.
Is that the week? Do you know if it is?
I think so, yeah. The superintendent was in the conversations with the other districts about the.
Can you just confirm
Yep,
it for us for the
sure.
full board?
Any other questions, comments?
You want to wait another month? I mean, I have no problem tabling if we want to wait another month.
We could just show it for first reading to the full board.
Okay.
We don't have to wait, if that's what the other districts are going with.
They bring information to next full board.
If that's New Hampshire, then that's New Hampshire.
Well, next full board, they can make it so we can bring it back.
Yeah, bring it
If
back
that's
to
the
committee
case.
phase.
Yeah.
Right.
Do any of you remember recently there was something about losing a day or two of contact time with the other CT programs for something recently?
That was the movement of a teacher workshop day, isn't it?
Is that what it was?
That was because of elections.
The elections,
And then there was another teacher
Primary.
with the
workshop.
primary, because New Hampshire's primary got bumped.
I think it was, now that I'm thinking about it, it was there, that was one, and there was also the SATs being done at Dover, which meant that kids were going to Dover, and they lost a day there. Something along those lines. Do you
I don't remember that one.
know if all the schools offer the SAT test the same day, so that kids don't?
I
Yes,
didn't
we
know
That's how
talked
they
to,
follow.
we talked to the directors, and we're all doing SAT, PSAT the same day.
Okay,
We aligned everything,
perfect,
yes.
thank you. All right,
Thank you.
are you comfortable sending it to the full board?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Is it 5-year next?
Yeah.
5 year.
Motion to it. Oh, yeah,
No,
sorry.
5 year.
Got 2 on hold.
Um,
So for instruction, everything that was reviewed, our criminal justice was reviewed, tech assessment was reviewed last month, so there's no changes to the 5-year up here, and then obviously the survey out there, there might be comments and topics that have to be readjusted, so it's going to be 5-year for next year.
Okay. I think Ms. Harrington had a question at the 5-year committee about whether, Ms. Carey, you're here, perfect, whether something was included in the program. Dispatch, is dispatch included as part of like an opportunity for kids in the program, or is that?
we've worked with Mrs. Vine, dispatch supervisor over at the PD. Our concern is the sensitivity of issues. You know, we have a junior or a senior in high school that's 16, 17 years old that happens to answer the phone, and it's a classmate, classmate's family or something like that, with a domestic or a, you know, whatever it might be. And we worry about that. We want them over there. We tour over there. We take the kids over to check out dispatch. And, you know, I had a student that is working dispatch, a former student. And we want to just worry about the sensitivity of what the kids are gonna learn, and then they're gonna blast something out on social media that's confidential information. But we do talk about it often, to try and find a way to get them in there and help out and learn without having access to that information. But there's so many files around. You got warrants right there. You got a whole bunch of stuff sitting right in dispatch.
Yeah, I wouldn't be for the students going. There's just, like he said, there's so much in that room that's, they see something, they go back to school. It's just, I wouldn't be for it.
It was just mainly a inquiry whether it's included, that
The only thing that came up was that in the past, there's been a conversation with the Rochester Police Department for like almost like a pathway program of the student comes out of the high school and then they're almost, a career path to the police department is created. Is that, the update we're gonna ask the district was, from this committee, is that happening, is that even planned for, or should we just say that's not something that's currently gonna need to be worked on, and that's a future conversation that they can bring forward again, it doesn't have to be tonight.
I'm looking behind me just because
That's fine.
you might have more.
I can hit on that. Generally speaking, most police departments, they're hiring full-time officers. You're looking at 21, 22-year-old individuals with some college, military experience, you know, something with them. That's most full-time police departments. Rochester is a full-time department. I have had students that have gone straight from high school, they're in college at UNH, but they're working part-time in, what's the beach place down south there?
Hampton.
Hampton. So they have part-time. Rollinsford has part-time. So there are opportunities for students to get into policing straight out of high school. RPD right now is not going to be one of them, and most full-time places are not going to be. So.
Yeah, so in New Hampshire, you gotta be 21 to get into the academy.
Thank you. So I know that was an objective that the board had at one point, or conversations happened, so personally, I see the advisor program is already up and running. I mean, that or has always been up and running, it's not new. Partnerships are always happening, so personally, I would make a motion, I'm gonna make a motion that item 1 of the 5-year plan, CET programs in partnership with industries, criminal justice, was one example, be taken off, because that's just an ongoing program the school department is doing.
Are you making that a motion?
Yeah.
I will second it.
Any discussion?
So what exactly you wanna do?
Item 1 of the 5-year plan that we had online was, it said CTE program partnership with industries, for example, the criminal justice program. And it works in some industries where they do like a mechanic, you go through, you partner with a certain garage and they leave the high school and they get a job.
Well, I know
It doesn't work with criminal justice.
we have interns at the PD a lot. Like we have, I think, 3 or 4 of them right now.
But the program's already running.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is we don't have to develop anything, and that wheel of working with different businesses and doing that is already in place.
Okay.
I don't see strategically we have to develop anything. is
Okay.
what I'm getting at.
No,
So that's why I was like, we
I
should take
get
it
you.
off. That's all. But thanks for asking.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
So that won't go for clarity until the March meeting, where we share 5-year in the process. That will then get updated on the website.
Can you make a note?
I'm making a note in the working document now. Thank you for reminding me.
Anything else on 5-year? Okay. Is there any public comment tonight? there any other?
Nothing? Just checking.
See any
Motion
other?
to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, there's a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes, thank
Sorry.
you.